We now return to inviting disaster on Modern Marvels.
The worst thing that can happen with a high-power, complex machine is to have things start to go wrong and to not know as an operator what's happening or what you're supposed to do.
March 28, 1979, 7:15 a.m. In a dozen communities surrounding the 3 Mile Island plant, people are beginning their day. Commuters start the drive to Harrisburg. Shop owners prepare to open. Children begin heading for school. All are still unaware of the potential disaster that is building only a few miles away. At the 3 Mile Island plant, a relief worker has finally discovered the stuck valve. Too late. The valve has been open for over 2 hours and 250,000 pounds of coolant have evaporated or leaked to the basement. But the leak had at least allowed some of the heat in the reactor to escape. Now some parts of the giant furnace are reaching 4,000 degrees, but the operators are unaware. Temperature monitoring instruments in the core can only read up to 700 degrees. The men sitting in the control room are now flying blind.
Flying blind is really a scary, deeply unnerving experience, and it gets worse minute by minute. It's the feeling a person has that no one has ever been in this place before. You're on your own. That was the feeling that morning at 3 Mile Island.
Experts at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in Washington and Babcock and Wilcox, the designers of the reactor, desperately try to get through to the control room. But the single phone line in the room is constantly tied up. The experts get only busy signals. As if the operators weren't already under enough pressure, a new alarm sounds. Radiation is now detected not only in the buildings, but in the control room as well.
Step into what that control room must have been like. That one phone is ringing. It's a constant blare. The master klaxon is going. The sounds of trouble. They are supposed to sit down and quietly work out these clues. It was just almost impossible.
Radiation is measured in REMs. The maximum radiation a person should receive in a year is 5 REMs. Readings in the reactor containment building are now reaching 10,000 REMs. It is only a matter of time until this radiation leaks into the outside atmosphere. Gary Miller, the station manager for 3 Mile Island, now declares a general state of emergency, the first ever in a nuclear power plant in the United States. Metropolitan Edison has been slow to release information about what is happening. But at 8:33, the story breaks. Radio station WKBO in Harrisburg is the first to tell the world.
There is a general emergency at Metropolitan Edison Company's 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant. A utility spokesman said...
Word of the crisis is also finally reaching Pennsylvania Governor Dick Thornburgh. His Lieutenant Governor, William Scranton, soon appears before the press.
The Metropolitan Edison Company has informed us that there has been an incident at 3 Mile Island, Unit Number 2. Everything is under control. There is and was no danger to public health and safety.
10:17 a.m. Radiation levels at the top of the containment building could now kill a man in 20 seconds. Plant manager Miller now orders his men to break out emergency breathing apparatus. By 11 a.m., radiation is detected leaking into the atmosphere outside the plant. The evil genie is out of the bottle. By early afternoon, the press is all over the unfolding story of what is happening at 3 Mile Island. Met Ed officials at last call a press conference of their own. Their spokesman is Jack Herbine, an engineer with no prior experience in dealing with the press.
The incident occurred this morning around 4 o'clock. Things are falling off right now. We expect soon to be in the cold shutdown condition.
Herbine says nothing about the escape of radioactivity into the air being breathed at that moment by the reporters. They are left with the impression that the incident is over.
Basically, they just lied. They didn't call anyone, actually, for hours. And then they kept insisting that it was just a stuck valve and they would fix it and there was no real danger.
Med-Ed's first pronouncements were extremely deceptive and disingenuous. In fact, it got to the point where the lieutenant governor actually had to give a press conference saying, look, the information the company is giving us is misleading and non-credible.
Med-Ed was clearly failing in their efforts to contain the story.
I don't know why we need to tell you each and everything that we do.
They felt that they knew how to operate this. They knew how to keep it under control, and there was a reluctance to admit that things were spiraling out of control.
7:33 p.m. The reactor designers at Babcock and Wilcox at last get a phone call through to the control room. The message is urgent and simple. Without water, the reactor will melt. Forget about going solid. Get water moving through the core. The pumps are finally restarted, and for the first time in 15 hours, the temperature and pressure in the reactor are at last stabilized. There will be no China syndrome. But the terrifying drama of this mighty machine is not yet over. The clock is still ticking.
In 2000, the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission began renewing permits for American nuclear reactors. The original permits were good for only 40 years of operation. Inviting Disaster will continue in a moment on the History Channel.